Hare Krishna, dear Vaishnavas, devotees. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, this chance to speak on this topic of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 8, text number 41. So, before we go, we will do a quick Mangla Charan since we have very little time. We'll just do a condensed version of Mangla Charan. गुरवे गौरचन्द्राय राधिकाय तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्णभक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन् इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्य ईश्वरम् जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Thank you to all the worshipable devotees of ISKCON Miami and the Miami Outreach Congregation, and my special gratitude to His Grace Keshav Gopal Prabhu for giving me this chance for, in spite of all my lack of ability and qualification, to speak specially on this verse, which is quite heavy, severing the ties of family affection. So, Srimad Bhagavatam is very, very special, and especially this section of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, and prayers of Kunti Maharani was very, very dear to Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada has often mentioned in his classes that devotees should read this section many, many times, try to memorize these prayers, offer these prayers to the Supreme Lord. So this section is very, very special to Srila Prabhupada and practically to all the devotees. They're such sweet prayers. So Kunti Maharani is the mother of Pandavas, the wife of Pandu. So a woman is attached to two families. One family is of the family of the husband side, and from the birth side, the parental family. So Kunti Maharani's parental family, she is referring to the Vrishnis, because she is the aunt of Krishna, because she is the sister of Vasudev Maharaj, who is the father of the Supreme Lord. So she has the connection to the Supreme Lord from that side as an aunt, or in Hindi we say Bua, the the sister of the sister of the father. So Krishna's father's sister is Mata Kunti, but she also has a connection to the Pandavas. So now what the scene is that Krishna, is about to go, to Dwarka, where the paternal side is present, from the father side is present. But she also wants Krishna to be with her own children, because she said earlier that Krishna, if you are present, then I don't care about any difficulties, because having your darshan, having you in our life means that we will be free from a punarabhava darshanam. We will be free from repeated darshan of this material world. We will not have to see this material world again and again. So if Krishna is in our lives, then we will not be coming back into the cycle of birth and death. So she is kind of in a fix whether I allow Krishna to go to be with my paternal side, my fatherly side, Vrishni dynasty, or to be with my husband's side, the Pandu's son, referring to the Pandavas. So therefore, she is, the woman is attached to both sides, so, the father side and the husband side. So Srila Prabhupada mentions this attachment is basically not just to the family, but to anything which is unfavorable attachment to us. We should, as we can also repeat these prayers. Now that does not mean, for most of us, it does not apply that we give up our family, or everyone takes sannyasa, etc. That this is not Srila Prabhupada's mood and mission. For a selected few brave souls like Srila Prabhupada, like those great sannyasis who are practically giving up their everything for serving the world. Srila Prabhupada also, when he came to United States, he had nothing, no money, no family, no friend, no relatives, nothing, completely dependent on Krishna. And that's Krishna's special mercy, as Prabhupada is mentioning in the last part of the purport, that if Krishna showers one special mercy, that means complete dependence. So now, where will a person go if one has to ask something? So Krishna says in Akama Sarva Kamo Va Moksha Kamo Udaradi Tivrena Bhakti Yogena Yajate Purusham Param. Even if one has something to ask, whether it is a material thing, it is a spiritual thing, or it is freedom from attachments or anything, Krishna says one should not go to any other. Krishna says he or she should come to me. And therefore, Mata Kunti is approaching the Supreme Lord that you please help me. You can do anything possible, right? So all these our kingdom is flourishing not because of our hard work, because you are present. This is a very important lesson that even if someone may be flourishing in material aspect or spiritual aspect, it is only because of the mercy of the Lord. And Krishna has done so many Herculean activities. His activities, his Leela, Janma, Karma, Chame, Divyam, are all transcendental. And Mata Kunti has seen all that. And therefore, she knows that for Krishna to help her in this situation is nothing, is a piece of cake, or is very, very easy. But somehow let's kind of little meditate upon this bonds of attachment. Srila Prabhupada explains that like two straws come together in an ocean. There are some straw particles. Two straw, a wave comes and two straw particles may come together and they could be present on the beach or the ocean bed. And the next wave comes and they'll never meet again. But in that momentarily time that it could be few days. In some species live for a few days, right? Insects and etc. Some species live for few hours, some species live for few years, some species humans like live for few decades in the Kali Yuga, 50, 60, 70, 80 years, 90 years at max. But what happens in that transition, we feel that everything, oh, this, the I, me, and mine, this things or people in relation to body are my true relatives, are my true friends, are my true well wishers. And therefore, there is a very nice verse by by Rishabh Dev in Canto 5 of Srimad Bahagavatam, and I'll share that for our purification. He mentions there, Pumsa striya maithuni bhavametam tayormitho hridaya granthi ahu atah griha kshetra sutapta vittir janasya moho yaham mameti. Canto 5, Chapter 5, text number 8. The attraction between male and female is the basic principle of material existence. On the basis of this misconception which ties together the hearts of male and female, one becomes attracted to this body, home, property, children, relatives, wealth, etc. In this way, one increases the life's illusion and thinks in terms of I and mine, I, me, and mine. In the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, also, we see this. What does Dhritarashtra say? First verse. धृतराष्ट्रोवाच धर्मक्षेत्रे कुरुक्षेत्रे समवेतायुत्सव मामकः पाण्डवश्चैव मामकः पाण्डवश्चैव किम अकुर्वत Sanjaya. What did my sons and the sons of Pandu? So separatist mentality. So thinking, oh, this is my life, this is my wealth, this is my children, this is my wife, my, I, me, mine. this binds us. This material affection, Prabhupada writes in the Bhagavad Gita, binds us. Prabhupada mentioned that Dhritarashtra was spiritually blind. He could not see the bad actions of his son like Duryodhana. And like father, like son, so was Duryodhana, who could not see beyond I, me, and mine. So, this I, me, and mine spiritually blinds us, because the more deeper this illusion gets, the more we are not able to see the broad perspective. Prabhupada is mentioning that those who are devotees, now this means all of us who are trying to be devotees, or so Prabhupada mentions a very beautiful line in the purport that that without broadening the field of activities, no one can be a qualified Brahmana, a king, a public leader, or a devotee of the Lord. So, in short, if we do not broaden our vision beyond this I, me, and mine, then we, as per this definition, we are not devotees of Lord. A devotee of Lord does not think, oh, this is my family, so I will just help them. Or these are people from India or northern India, they speak the same language, I'll only help them. Or the color of their skin is equivalent to my color of the skin, I will help them. This was not Prabhupada's mood. Prabhupada built an international society for Krishna consciousness, where people from all backgrounds, from all castes, from all colors of the skin, from all physical and demographic background, and without any bias, whether white or yellow or black or brown or rich or poor, literate or illiterate, any background, any circumstance, they can come and take to the message of Krishna consciousness. That means to broaden our vision. A Kripana has narrow mentality. A miserly person only thinks of some socialism, some this ism, some nationalism. Prabhupada said all these are isms. One could be saying, "Oh, I am Indian because so India is great. Next life I could be born in some other country and I will say that country is great." This is all different forms of isms. But Prabhupada did not distinguish on any circumstance and any background. Without any bias, without any judgmental mentality, he gave the pure message of Krishna consciousness to anyone and everyone and built a home where the whole world can live peacefully. Udar Charitanam, Udar Charita, broad minded. So, Bhagavatam and Krishna consciousness broadens our horoscope, not to just think of I, me, and mine, not to just think this family is meant for my enjoyment. Kunti Maharani's family was devotees, Pandavas, Rishnis, they're all great devotees, but the attachment is very, very strong. So she is teaching us a lesson that we should also think very broad minded, and therefore how can we now start to practice it? Not by going to the forest immediately. We have to start to practice it by at least inviting devotees at our home, that this home is not just for my sense enjoyment, or this wife or husband is not just for my sense enjoyment. Let the sadhus come, let the devotees come, let me and my wife and my children serve them together. Let this them sometimes stay at our home so that we can get chance to serve them. Let me donate some portion of my income for the propagation of this broad-minded spiritual culture, Krishna consciousness. So in that way, we can at least take some steps towards and at least pray to Krishna that, oh my Supreme Lord, whatever is unfavorable, whatever is an obstacle in my spiritual path, please help me. You can help me to remove that. So please help me to remove any spiritual obstacles. If we don't pray like that, if we don't try to follow the principles, then it's not like that at the age of 80 years or 70 years, whatever our last time is, 90 years, whatever, we will naturally be detached. It won't be like that. Even a 80-year-old man has a 20-year plan. It's a joke. So the in short, and we see that even in one of my teachers, he's a patient, he's a doctor geriatrician, basically the doctor who takes care of old patient, and he was mentioning that old patients come and then they ask for medicine so that they can enjoy their senses. So that it's very sad that even at the age of and we know the famous story of Ajamil, even at the fag end of his life as 96 years, he was busy enjoying. And that's what the whole world is doing somehow or the other, by hook or crook. How can we enjoy more? But this is not spiritual culture. Spiritual culture means there are four ashramas: brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyasa. So in the grihastha phase is the phase of expansion, family, home, etc. But then later one has to kind of cut down those attachments. In the vanaprastha, the person may live with one's wife and then ultimately sannyas. And that doesn't mean that everyone has to take the saffron robes of sannyas, but at least His Holiness Bhakti Vikas Maharaj mentioned that we can be sannyasa by heart. Just by wearing the robes does not mean sannyas. There are many people in India who wear saffron robes, but I'm talking about the pseudo sannyasis. They may be attached to some cigarette or bidi or some tea or coffee or something very not appropriate for their spiritual development. So in short, we should gradually, that doesn't mean we stop taking care of our family, children, etc. We have to take good care in a Krishna conscious way, but at the same time we have to, in our heart, develop that spirit of detachment. As Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said to one of the great souls, I'm forgetting the name, that you be in the household life, but be internally attached to the Supreme Lord and externally do your duties. There's another verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita, very beautiful, about Lord Chaitanya. Yeah, Madhya Leela, chapter 6, text 254. वैराग्य विद्या निज भक्ति योगा शिक्षार्थकम एक पुरुषा पुराण श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य शरीरधारी कृपाम बुधिर्यस्तम aham prapadye. Let me take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, who has descended in the form of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to teach us real knowledge, his devotional service, and detachment from whatever does not foster Krishna consciousness. I repeat, to teach us detachment from whatever does not foster Krishna consciousness. For someone, it could be family, for someone, it could be wealth, for someone, it could be home, for someone, it could be one's past habits, for someone, it could be different thing, or it's a very complex. Something may be very easy for someone to give up, but it could be very difficult for the other person. So we can pray that whatever is not conducive, whatever is against the principles of bhakti, Krishna, you please help me to give that up. So he especially descended to teach this message of Krishna consciousness. Even the six Goswamis Prabhupada is quoting in the Shad Goswami Ashtakam, we hear that Tyaktva Turnamashesha Mandalapati Shrinim Sada Tuchhavat Bhutva Dina Ganesha Kaukarunaya Kopina Kanthashritau Gopi Bhavar Samritam Badilahari कालोलमग्नौ मुहुर् वन्दे रूपसनातन रघुयुगौ श्रीजीवगोपालकौ. The six Goswamis, who were in today's day and age billionaires, they had boats filled of gold coins. Imagine 500 years back. This is very aristocratic. But they gave up everything, living under just with lion cloth, copine. They were became mendicants. Why? Because they had the topmost thing, the wealth of Krishna bhakti, the wealth of Krishna consciousness. One who has that, the wealth, the family, the other things will not be, so will be like nothing because the real wealth is Krishna consciousness. The real relationship is with the Supreme Lord. That's our eternal relationships. Um, जीवर स्वरूप है कृष्णेर नित्य दास कृष्ण तथा शक्ति कृष्ण तथा शक्ति भेदा भेद प्रकाश. So the six Goswamis are teaching the same message. Srila Prabhupada is teaching the same message. Mata Kunti is teaching the same message. And practically any section of Bhagavatam we open, we see the same message. Like how Kardam Muni also, he was the father of the Supreme Lord Kapila Dev. But to teach the lesson, he also retired. But at the same time, we have to be careful and take lesson from the story of Jad Bharat also, because Bharat Maharaj also retired, but he got attached to the deer. So that means if we are not alert, and especially Prabhupada mentions in multiple places that if one is chanting, dancing, doing all the principles of Krishna consciousness at home, that home, then one does not need to take sannyas. Then that home is even better than the so-called sannyas. And Prabhupada says, going to Vanaprastha, then we can't go to forest these days. Going to Vanaprastha means going to Vrindavan or staying near an ISKCON temple and serving more. That's basically spiritual retirement. Material retirement people maybe do sunbath on the beaches of Florida and just waste their time in eating, sleeping, drinking alcohol, or playing cards and whatnot. But spiritual retirement means more active Krishna consciousness, that now I am in my last lap of my life. Already 50, 60 years are gone. Now I am in my last lap of my life. I don't know how much time I will have. So let me take more active involvement in services, in my chanting, in my reading, hearing, etc., so that I can purify more. The final stage of life has come. That's Krishna consciousness. That's spiritual retirement, which we all should plan. We should not work in our offices till maybe 60 years, 70 years. Nowadays, people die in the office. Monday, a lot of people get heart attack on Monday. Um, why? Because of spiritual stress, or sorry, material stress and the office stress, etc. But Srila Prabhupada is not teaching that principle. So all of us should, whatever our ages are, we can try to imbibe this message, so that we are not over attached to anything, because attachment to anything is bad. And therefore, Krishna teaches, when Arjuna asks how to control my mind, Krishna also mentions there also, abhyasena vairagyena, by practice and by detachment from anything and everything which is not conducive to our Krishna consciousness. Now, it may be very, very difficult. Kunti Maharani agrees with that, and we all know it is not so easy. Um, so, what do? We pray, like how Bilva Mangal Thakur is praying in his Chaurashtakam Bhajan. And it's the sixth stanza of Chaurashtakam Bhajan, where he mentions Chinatsi Ghoram Yamapasha Bandham Bhinatsi Bhimam Bhavapasha Bandham Chinatsi Sarvasya Samasta Bandham Nevat Mano Bhakta Kritam Tu Bandham. The translation is as follows: You can cut the terrible noose of Yamaraj. You can sever the dreadful noose of material existence. You slash everyone's material bondage, but you are unable to cut the knot fastened by your loving devotees. So, in short, for Krishna to cut this Sneha Pasha, Pasha means bandhan, or kind of ropes of attachment, it's very, very easy. He cannot cut the ropes of attachment if Mother Yashoda binds him because those ropes are ropes of love. But other bondage, materialistic bondage, or anything which is not conducive for us, Krishna can easily destroy that based on our prayers, based on our sincerity, based on how eagerly we are practicing the message of Krishna consciousness. And as we approach, He will reciprocate accordingly. So, in this prayer of Mata Kunti, she is teaching us that ultimately our real attachment should be with the Supreme Lord and His pure devotees, and anything which is not favorable to our bhakti, whether it is wealth, whether it is family attachment, we should slowly try to work on that, pray to the Lord that Krishna, please increase my attachment towards you. Please help me to develop more taste like the Goswami, even a drop of that, even a tiny fraction. That how could, in a material world, just think about, if a person is billionaire, it's not easy to say I will give up everything and I'll just go to Vrindavan and chant Hare Krishna, even in our spiritual society. So very very rare. It's very very rare. So we can imagine the height of attachment they must have had for Krishna, with the rasa they must be experiencing, the joy, the nectar they must be experiencing, that they could easily give up the wealth equivalent to like today's Jeff Bezos, or these big CEOs or big owners of these big companies. The amount of wealth they gave up, the amount of the prestige, wealth, honor, they were good in almost everything. Wealth, knowledge, everything, prestige, they gave up everything to to preach the message of Krishna consciousness, to fulfill the order of Lord Chaitanya. Same with Srila Prabhupada. He was happy in Vrindavan, had a nice family, spiritual family, devotees. They were also chanting, doing all the programs, etc. But to please his spiritual master, to he gave up a small family to embrace the whole world as his family. Vasudeva Kudumbakam. So a devotee never loses. In giving Krishna, we will never be at loss. We will gain unlimitedly times more. So these are some of my thoughts which I have heard from senior Vaishnavas. If there are any corrections, any feedback, anything I said wrong, please correct me. Thank you so much again for giving me this chance to remember this wonderful verse of Mata Kunti. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. So devotees on the call, so you have any comments, reflections, or questions?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yes, Maharaj. Wait, don't you? I just was thinking of with Dhruva Mangala Thakur, who plucked out his eyes, and then he was blind. And this is such a nice point how Krishna is all powerful, and he could fulfill a devotee like Queen Kunti's prayer to cut her attachment to her family members. But then you said that Krishna is not able to cut the tie of affection that his pure devotees have for him. The Bilva Mangala Thakur, you most know the story, how he was in the forest, and Krishna came to him, and he was trying to catch Krishna, and Krishna would wriggle away. Little Krishna at that point, and he was saying that you can escape from my arms, but you could never escape from the core of my heart. That seems to confirm what you were saying, that Bilva Mangala Thakur was transcendently proud of the fact that he had captured Krishna. And as far as like not leaving one's position, that's Yegbaya so jita chitopi asi tvaistilo kyam, is stated in Bhagavatam, that the and also in Chaitanya Charitamrita by Ramananda Roy, and Lord Chaitanya was very pleased when he quoted that verse, how one stanestita sutigatam tanuvan vanobir, that one who's actually really dedicated to Krishna consciousness, especially the processes of hearing, having given up mental speculation, then he's capable. He is the one who can, remaining in his position, that's okay, but he is at least internally so attached to hearing the glories of the Lord that the devotee actually captures the Lord, even though he didn't change his external position. That's also a point. Of course, the question always comes up when we're dealing with how we put this into practice. I would just suggest that part of the difficulty many devotees have of severing their ties, perhaps it's more difficult for devotees from India, where family affection is still, to a great extent, much stronger and rightfully so. Extended families and actually real loving relationships, at least from a material point of view, or even spiritual in the case of devotee families, is very hard to give up. But I always wonder why by the time there are verses like that, we don't have time. Somebody needs to turn off their mic. But I always have, I always wonder, isn't it, if death is coming, then, and it's coming so close, closer and closer, then shouldn't that help us? You know, say, wait a second, I'm only here for a few more days, or I don't even know how long, but certainly you're giving the example that the 80-year-old man, he still has a 20-year plan, action plan. That's so foolish. But even if we're not 80 years old yet, we never make it. We may never make it to that age. Doesn't it seem like a good tactic to just actually acknowledge the reality, at least from the material perspective, the reality of the fact of death, the fact that we have to leave these bodies? Wouldn't that be a tremendous, how should we say, impetus to detachment? That's a kind of question.
This is a question for me, Maharaj. Okay. No, thank you so much for all your wonderful comments you shared and the practical tips as well. Yes, absolutely. For a person who is spiritually awake or trying to be spiritually awake, this makes sense. But when Yudhishthira Maharaj was asked, what is the most astonishing thing in life? What is the most surprising thing? And then he replied, the most surprising thing is that our friends die, our neighbors die, our grandparents die, and at some point, whatever our ages are, our relatives die, our parents, etc., etc. No one has lived forever. But the point is that when it comes to me, I think I will live forever. This is called pashyati api na pashyati, pashyam api na pashyati, seeing but not seeing. This is the most astonishing fact. And because of lack of spiritual knowledge, because of spiritual blindness. Even Dhritarashtra, until he was, said by kind of awakened by the pure devotee like Vidura, he did not give up his attachment until all his children were dead. He was still. It comes in the Bhagavatam that he was like eating some food thrown to a dog by Bhima. So Bhima was kind of throwing some food, and Dhritarashtra was happily eating it. He didn't still give up his attachment to that, even after all his children were dead. So Pashyamapi na pashyati. This is the most astonishing thing that everyone sees. Everyone sees that that people are dying, but still, I will be an exception. That's the most and in this world there is no expiry, kind of, we don't know when that last time, will it be 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, 70 years, we don't know. So this is because of lack of spiritual knowledge and spiritual consciousness. Is that answer to some extent? Please correct if I misspoke.
Of course, it's correct that Mahabharata is often cited as the most wonderful thing in the world that everyone sees, and they see, and then the other verse in Bhagavatam, Pashyanatina Pashyati, some Nidanam, Asanatina Pasi. They don't see their inevitable destruction. The fallible soldiers that people are going to save them. But I was just thinking that at least in our own cases, maybe that's kind of a stepping stone, or that could be like a step forward in becoming more detached, even starting today in our day-to-day activities and relationships. Is to one thing is to have knowledge of something, another thing is to acknowledge it. One thing is to have cognition of something, another thing is to have recognition of something. So if we can actually recognize and acknowledge the imminence of death, we don't necessarily have to fall into the general category of the most wonderful thing in the world, but even though it's right there, that we just ignore it. The wonderful verse in the 11th canto of Bhagavatam describes how can anyone be interested in any kind of material happiness or pleasure that they carry when death is so near. We're all exactly like Agatam Yamanasya Vadasyeva Natushtida. We're exactly like a condemned man being led to the place of execution. How can anyone take pleasure in these fleeting stimuli of material enjoyment? Anyway, we should. Our philosophy is so practical. We just have to somehow focus more on the science of Krishna consciousness, including the science of how to become detached from material life.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, please.
Yeah, it's a little bit, what we call, tricky, because many places Papa say that sannyasa is compulsory. And the case, I think, in Dhritarashtra's, commenting on Dhritarashtra's life, and even in 322:19, Papa in the Srimad Bahagavatam, he says that after producing a child, one should take sannyas to engage in the perfection of Paramahansa stage. So, yeah, we can perform bhakti in many ways, but many people are saying that the sannyas is not for Kali Yuga. You cannot take sannyas in Kali Yuga. So can you comment a little bit?
Hare Krishna. Yes, thank you so much for your comment. Exactly. I mean, in now talking about our practical ISKCON society, we see this is only very, very tiny, very, very small number of devotees, first of all, who want to take sannyas. And those also who want to take sannyas, there's a very, very good and kind of a process which they have to undergo to really prove. And then we know there is a big waiting list, sometimes years, which is good because in the history of ISKCON, we know that Srila Prabhupada had a kind of an emergency at 50 years back, but now we are more in the maintenance and sustenance of ISKCON rather than kind of rushing through that sannyas process. So I this is my understanding from that. First of all, that it is more from the heart, which, as you said, everyone can be from heart develop the spirit of detachment. And then those great souls, those noble souls who want to fully take to that process at the right age, at the right spiritual maturity, and of course through the recommendation of other senior Vaishnavas, they can do that. But that's very tiny population, because as you said, that it is not recommended in Kali Yuga. So it's only for the very, very selected few, those who physically kind of take it and wear the dress of sannyasi, but others can can wear the heart of a sannyasi. And basically that danda they carry, which represents kaya, vacha, manasa, and atma, the body, mind, and words, the three dandi staff, we can also from our heart engage our body, mind, and soul, body, mind, words, and soul completely in the service of the Lord at the right age, at the right spiritual maturity, and and so that's wonderful. That's my thought.
Thank you. Anybody else has any questions, comments?
Yeah, I looked up the verse that you were referring to, Jayadwaj, 3:22:19, and I think you were referring to after fulfilling his responsibility to produce a nice child, one should take sannyas and engage in the perfectional Paramahamsa stage. Paramahamsa refers to the most highly elevated perfectional stage of life. There are 4 stages of sannyas life, etc. I think what you were getting at was that Prabhupada would make statements like that, but at the same time, he would say sannyas is compulsory. So it seems like by implication, becoming Paramahamsa is compulsory, and it's not something that we could do overnight. And so I could see that it's a kind of contradiction. Anyway,
because it's a 4 ashram. And Prabhupada said, follow Varna ashram is the most. My 50% work is not done because if Varna ashram is not established. So Varna ashram means first you have brahmachari, which today nobody is brahmachari, very few, and then vanaprastha, grihastha, vanaprastha. You take vanaprastha, and Prabhupada said, and the latest stage, after 50 years, one should take sannyas. So he made a statement like that to the general public, general statements. To me, he's telling the people to come to different stages, but
Thank you.
I think we lost Jayadwaj to some technical problem. He's not peaceful.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, maybe we could invite if anyone else has any question or comment.
Okay, so we can pause here then. Yeah.
This is Srimad Bahagavatam.
Shubha Vilas. Shubha Vilas. Shubha. Yes.
Shubha Vilas Govinda. Sorry, I'm having trouble with it. I'm sorry, I'm making a note of it. Shubha Vilas Govinda. All right, so thank you so much for going. I don't know what happened. Jayadwaj lost the connection, but very, very nice to have devotees sometimes who are brought up in more or less Vedic background and sharing with us how they appreciate Prabhupada's teachings, even though they didn't have that far to go in a sense as we devotees in the Wild West did. So Shubha Vilas Govinda Prabhu, should we end the class now?
Sure, Prabhuji. I just want to share one last quick story by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. I planned to share it, but I missed to share. So I think we have heard this story, but it's quite relevant in this context. So I just will quickly share in 1 minute. So we have heard the story that Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur mentions that there was a boatman who was, rowing a boat, and a family wanted to go from one side of the river to the other side of the river. And it was a journey. So all this family sat on the boat, and it was an overnight journey. So the boatman started rowing the boat, and then he was rowing and rowing and rowing, and all these people kind of slept because they were probably tired. And then it was next day morning, and then they realized, oh, where are we? Are we on the other side? No, sorry, we are on the same side. Why are we on the same side? And then he realized, oops, I forgot to take out that anchor. So although I was rowing that, but still I'm at the same place. So I feel that, that anchor is like the attachment, and it could be attachment to anything, which will inhibit our spiritual progress, which will not allow us to make spiritual progress with the right pace and momentum. So, and as we discussed before, these anchors could be different, these attachments could be different for different individuals. For some, it could be wealth, for some, it could be family, for some, it could be some prestige or some recognition. For some, it could be distinction, puja, labha, pratishtha, pride, profit, fame, adoration, etc. But I think I need to look into my own self, do some self analysis, do some self kind of um, you know kind of introspection. Yes, I was looking for that word, introspection, and see what is stopping me, what is my anchor in life, and pray to Krishna. Krishna, please help me to move those anchors. I can't move on my own. They're too heavy. What to do? I'm so attached to those things. But if you are the lifter of Govardhan. You can lift anything. For you, it's not difficult to lift any anchor. So please help me out. So I just thought to share that story. So,
Untitled Srimad Bahagavatam ki jai.
Jai. Jai. Hari Hari Bol. Thank you so much again for giving me this wonderful chance. Vansha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.